Did you know you could sponsor Nerd and Tie? But not just any kind of sponsorship. Right now, we're running an Indiegogo campaign. All you have to do is go to igg.me/@/NEXPO, and that's where you can help sponsor the new convention we're running, the Nerd and Tie Expo, September 23rd through 25th, 2016. Help us support Wisconsin conventions. It's going to be awesome.
On this fortnight's edition of Nerd and Tie, Jenna Louise Coleman is leaving Doctor Who, Pacific Rim 2 is put on hold, King Kong and Godzilla may get a rematch, we look at several conventions, and we'll talk a little bit more about the future of Nerd and Tie. This is Nerd and Tie.
That's exciting.
It is exciting. Yeah.
Jinx. I don't know. How you guys? Welcome once again to this fortnight's edition of Nerd and Tie. Good to have everyone here.
Good to be here.
I'm excited.
I'll pretend to be as enthusiastic as you guys are. I'm tired because I just got off work.
And boy, are his arms tired.
So am I. Only I don't do as much physical labor. Why don't you introduce us, Nick?
Sounds good. Not doing as much physical labor as me is the unstoppable Trey Dorn.
It's true. No force on earth can move the Trey.
And reporting from the land where it is frozen all the time, even right now, as summer is ending.
I don't understand. It's like 75 degrees out.
It is frozen up where you are. It is one and only Professor Fur.
I'm agreeing. I'm agreeing. It's 75 degrees out and there's ice everywhere. I don't understand. It doesn't seem possible.
Let it go.
Unlikely. Oh, I get it.
That wasn't even meant to be a joke. I was just saying let go of the joke.
But it worked.
You're fired.
And making terrible
You're
jokes.
You're all fired.
Oh, damn it. And I guess needing to find a new podcast to be on, I'm Nick Azumi. Scheist. All right, so a lot of interesting things to look at this fortnight, but we're going to start off with what might be a downer for some, not for me personally, but that's all right. Jenna Louise Coleman, Clara from Doctor Who, is going to be leaving this season at some point. Will it be the end? Will it be the middle? Who knows?
It'll
but
be the
she
middle.
is okay.
No, I mean, I'm just calling it. I have no inside information.
But she is for certain leaving the show.
For real this time.
For real this time.
Not just a rumor. This is actually happening.
This is confirmed by the BBC, finally. Mind you, we all kind of knew.
Yeah. It's been a long time coming, especially when those rumors first kind of circulated. Was it last year?
So she was originally supposed to leave after the Christmas special, but then she decided she didn't want to, and they actually reshot the end of the Christmas special.
Oh, okay.
So Clara wouldn't be leaving then. So it's this is so we had confirmed Clara's leaving last year. You can go find a post on Nerd and Tie about it because it looked certain they had shot an ending where she left. But when she signed back on to do more episodes, the general belief amongst most people was that she'd be leaving partway through the season. And so it's why it's like when the rumors came out a couple weeks ago, I was really confused because I was like, of course Claire's leaving this season. I thought we already knew that. Although it is true.
I was about to say, I was of the impression that she was, I was about to say, I remember when we posted the first article, so, yeah.
Yeah. So it's been kind of a certainty, but I guess this is the first official confirmation we've gotten from the BBC, though, is with this round, is that the BBC has come out and said that Claire, and it's mostly they had to because she signed on to do a different show.
Yeah, she definitely kind of, most of the time, at least with the past companions and past doctors leaving, the BBC always made an effort to get ahead of that and say, hey, we're announcing that I remember when Billy Piper was leaving. No, sorry, this is Rose's last season. And Billy Piper's like, yeah, and then I'm gonna do all these other things.
Well, it all goes back to the beginning of the revival series 10 years ago when they announced that they were renewing the show immediately after the first episode aired, after the episode Rose aired. They announced immediately they were renewing it for a second season. And Christopher Eccleston was not listed as signed on.
Yep.
And everyone, it totally spoils the ending of that season because we all knew that,
Well, it was the same with a lot of it was the same. I remember recently when Angels Take Manhattan, when I suffered through that.
When we all suffered through it.
When we all suffered through that, I remember having that conversation online with people being like, there's nothing shocking about this ending. Arthur Darvill had signed a contract to do another show like half a year ago. So,
yeah.
Like,
and the three of us don't always agree on Doctor Who, because the three of us don't always agree on Doctor Who stuff.
Because how boring would that be?
But we all agree
no kidding.
that the Angel, that two-parter
was terrible.
Was awful.
Awful.
No one wants the Angels Take Manhattan. You don't want the Angels Take Manhattan.
I saw someone on Facebook say they liked it, and I don't know if they were being ironic or not. But I saw it, and I had to stop myself from saying something because
there's so much of it.
That's always one of my problems, is realizing that if I'm not talking to good friends, I need to turn my snark off because yeah.
Well, and I'm okay. So I mean, going back to Jenna Louise Coleman, I'm really interested to see what she can do outside of the show. I don't really have a problem with her as an actress. I know there's a lot of people.
She's a very good actress.
She's a very good actress, and I think
she's a very good actress. Yeah,
and that's the case with a lot of people on the show in years of late. But it's unfortunate that the writing right now.
I like Clara. I think the weaker moments of Clara are just the weaker moments of Stephen Moffat writing. I think especially last series, I really enjoyed the Jenna Louise Coleman's interactions with Peter Capaldi. I really enjoyed that dynamic.
I enjoyed that. But I was sad that her only development last season was in the context of her boyfriend.
Oh, I agree completely.
That's
I know that you haven't watched it yet, Nick. Although I will say they did put the first episode of the new season up on YouTube.
I'll have to go pick that up or watch that.
Yeah, they're going to charge for the rest of the season, but they are putting up they did put the first episode up for free of the new season. I really enjoyed Clara in that first episode. I think it's very solid.
I think she still is.
I just want to say, even as a person who's a big fan of Clara, I'm fine with her leaving at this point because I think one of the great things about Doctor Who is that the companion dynamic is that companions move on. Like, I liked the Ponds, but they stuck around way too long.
No, they stayed on board about maybe 10 episodes longer than they should have.
Like, because and I say like the Ponds really was, I love Rory so much. I just love Rory. I mean, I've got no problem with Amy Pond, but I'm all about Rory. And so
I can agree with that.
And so, but they stuck around too long. Seems
to be Stephen Moffat's problem, though, is that he makes these companions, even if I like something about them, they stick around way past the point that I care.
I mean, think about how many companions 11 had versus 10 if you just take a look at like David Tennant's first 3 years.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so I think that Clara leaving is good in the sense that part of what keeps the show fresh and allows you to, like, first off, lets the Doctor always be explaining, is if the companions are new to the experience all the time, if he's always with new people, because it's that wonder in their eyes that makes him, is part of his motivation. And so when people become too experienced with it, they stop being as excited by what they're seeing. And I think it's I mean, the truth is that, like, some of my favorite companions don't go longer than, like, my favorite two companions of the Russell T Davies era are Donna and Martha, who each
Yep.
stuck around for one season. I mean,
Donna was my favorite companion of
Donna's
the entire new series.
Donna's my favorite companion of all of Doctor Who. And I say this as a person who's like, don't get me wrong, I love my Sarah Jane Smith. I will always love Elizabeth Sladen's Sarah Jane Smith. But Donna has become my favorite companion.
Yeah, Donna does, and I think what a part of that was is, I mean, her good writing. I mean, like you look at the Russell T Davies. I'm gonna be on that train. Like you look. I would love to have seen what Russell T Davies could have done with like a Clara or the Ponds.
RTD's thing was he was good at characters and good at sincere human interactions. Maybe not necessarily stories that make narrative sense.
Right, yeah.
But he was very good at making the characters react honestly to situations, even if narratively it didn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I want to be clear that like Russell T Davies, I do not like hold on like super high. Like I hold him, like I like him. I like episodes he wrote, but he also wrote World War III.
Yeah.
Let's remember he created the Slovene.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is that I'm completely opposed to the dichotomy thinking that so many Doctor Who fans have of, oh, you dislike Stephen Moffat, so you must hold Russell T Davies on a pedestal. No,
they
both kind of suck.
Well, I think Russell T Davies did characters better, and in some ways, I think Russell T Davies. I don't like necessarily him as an episode writer, but I like him as a showrunner.
Yeah, I think he had a better grasp of like making the big picture work.
Yeah, and I think he did a better, like, if you'll notice, Moffat's best episodes he's ever written were while Russell T Davies was monkeying with them.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and that's true.
That's what I've always pointed out. Like I always suggest like Blink or The Empty Child or Silence in the Library, which is like maybe the only episode with River's song that I can actually stand.
I like River. I like River.
I used to like River, and then Series 6 happened, and everything I liked about her died.
Well, yeah, but her last appearance was pretty good.
Okay, yeah, her that's actually, I'm kind of disappointed to hear that she'd be coming back this season because she had such a great send-off in Series 7.
But that was the great send-off of the character from her point of view.
True. But
it's out of order, man.
We can't keep sending her off.
No. That is the send-off. Her appearance is going to take place earlier in her timeline.
I know, but I'm saying like her first appearance was her send-off. Then her season 7, she also got a really perfect send-off. We need to stop sending her off.
Well, I'm just saying I'm okay with it. But it's mostly because I'd like to see River I like it best when River interacts with companions she's not related to.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, her best appearances have been in episodes that don't involve the Ponds.
Yeah.
Yes. This is very true.
So I think that, though, looking at our little time code here, I think we should move on to...
Yeah, it's time to move forward.
...to massive disappointment.
Massive disappointment. Now, of course, we here at Nerd and Tie, one of the very first stories that we ever covered on our show was back in 2012, right after Pacific Rim came out. And I think that year we ranked it as the greatest thing to happen in the year 2000. Sorry, 2013. Excuse me. That was
2013. You ranked it above watching your child be born, actually.
I mean, Pacific Rim was arguably one of the greatest things that ever happened in the history of the world.
We talked about how much we loved it in the very first episode of Nerd and Tie.
Exactly. We spent a good portion of time discussing it. And gosh golly gee, were we excited last year when Pacific Rim 2 was getting greenlit and information kept coming out about it, what it was going to be about, when it was going to be out in 2017. We were all ready for it. Well, bad news, everybody. According to some financial issues, of course, Warner Brothers Legendary moving from Warner Brothers to Universal, Pacific Rim 2 has been placed on indefinite hold.
Damn
Yep.
it!
It is entirely possible that we are no longer going to be even seeing Pacific Rim 2, which had been subtitled Maelstrom before being put on hold. It is possible Pacific Rim 2 may never, ever happen.
It still kind of blows my mind because you'd think that the cult following is like, at least where I'm at in the sphincter of Wisconsin, the Pacific Rim toys are still like major hits. Like they keep disappearing from shelves here.
Well,
You'd like
not
the
only
cult
that,
following is so strong.
but it was huge overseas.
Okay.
I don't think there's been a movie that's done as well like in China as Pacific Rim did.
Transformers 4.
I suppose.
Yeah, Transformers 4 is insane.
But let me tell you, this is what with Pacific Rim. Okay, so Pacific Rim 2 got greenlit completely over those overseas sales. It did actually rather mediocre in the U.S. and it's one of those films that was in between the middle as to whether or not it would get a sequel. Like we weren't surprised that it got a sequel, but no one would have been surprised if a sequel had never been greenlit, and that's why we're kind of in this unhappy place right now because we had a shot at a sequel and it looks like it might not happen. I mean, it probably won't happen at this point.
No,
and that sucks. But it was an in between situation where there was no real sure way to know whether or not it was going to happen. And this, it is the casualty of Legendary's shift, and the truth is that Legendary owns much more profitable properties now. We're going to talk about that in a little bit.
I'm about to say that'll be the next story. Incidentally,
but Legendary's got other places where they need to put the money. And if something had to be the casualty of their dynamic shift, then this was going to be it. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
And as a Guillermo del Toro fan, I'm kind of getting used to this feeling of Del Toro starts working on something, everyone gets excited, and then the project gets canceled.
What, like The Hobbit?
Or the Mountains of Madness, or
Crimson Peak is coming out.
It is. It's happening.
It's happening.
It's done. It's in the can.
It's in the can.
Except for a week before the release date when they say, "Nah, we changed our mind. We're
the ads are all over TV. I cannot get away from the advertisements for Crimson Peak. It is happening.
But I mean, at the same time as this, I mean, we're not getting Pacific Rim 2, and that's sad. That's it's disappointing. I'm disappointed. It goes along the lines of, is it? I mean, it's. Do we need to give everything a sequel?
That's true. I mean, it's a great movie on its own, and maybe it doesn't need a continuation.
And the thing is, at most, what were we going to get? Were we going to get a prequel? Were we going to get the same thing where the aliens? It was
going to be a sequel. It was going to be a follow up.
Have the aliens found another way back in? I mean, like I'd be perfectly fine with another 2 hours of the same movie.
Oh, but it was the best 2 hours of biscuit tinning I've ever seen.
It was amazing, but at the same time, do we need to get more of it? Would it take away from how good the first one is? If, let's say the second one came out and we say, well, it's like having too much ice cream.
I'm never a believer in the idea that something later takes away from something that was good originally.
Right.
Like that always bothers me. Like when a couple of years ago when people kept acting like the ending of Half-Life Mass Effect 3 somehow ruined the rest of the series. That really that teed me off, because even if you didn't like the ending, that doesn't take away the fun the rest of the game gave you.
Well, we all still love Ghostbusters 1.
I don't mind Ghostbusters 2.
I don't
mind Ghostbusters 2, but Ghostbusters 1 was a phenomenal piece of art. Ghostbusters 2 was a not great thing. I watched both. I just recently rewatched both the original Ghostbusters movies, and there's a little bit of search for more money in Ghostbusters.
Well, you can tell just by watching Bill Murray that he didn't want to be there.
Yeah, no,
like, he absolutely Bill Murray didn't want to be there.
It's Bill Murray phoning that whole movie in.
That's true.
But I mean, well, it wouldn't take away from the first one. I mean, would we be able to
look? Anything where the Statue of Liberty walks is a bad idea.
What if it had happened? What if
just to tie this whole thing together?
Going back to Angels Take
anything where the Statue of Liberty walks is a bad idea.
Which is probably what would have happened in Pacific Rim 2, Maelstrom. They would have turned the Statue of Liberty into a Jaeger.
No, but that would have been awesome.
I was about to say that sounds like the G Gundam the movie, which it
Oh,
sort of was anyway.
Tequila Gundam is so racist.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I'm not gonna argue against that, but I still like it. I'm a bad person.
Yes.
Uh, but yeah, no, it's sad that Pacific Rim 2 is on hold.
oh, I'm disappointed too. I mean, like the first one was such a fun, amazing experience, and I'm sad we won't get to experience it again unless they re-release the first one in theaters.
What compounds that sadness, though, for me, is the fact that we know Legendary wants to put their money toward a more profitable franchise. And that brings us to our next story, really. Because with Legendary owning both a little movie called Skull Island, which is a reboot of the King Kong franchise, after I don't know how many times King Kong's been rebooted. Legendary is now considering giving Godzilla and King Kong that rematch that they've been waiting for since really the early 60s. We could get a King Kong versus Godzilla modern American version. Ooh,
Well, yeah, because yeah,
I'm down.
exciting.
because that's a
I'm
movie
down.
we all needed remade.
I was about to say, yeah, because the God, honestly speaking, as much as what I would, well, it would be fun to see Legendary Godzilla fight Kong or whatever. I would much rather I be able to get an uncut version of the 60s King Kong versus Godzilla,
Well, okay, so
which
and there's
you can't get.
scale issues. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
because okay, so if Godzilla was only the size of like the original Gojira movie Godzilla, it would actually not be that bad because like one's like 50 feet, one's 30 feet, but Legendary Godzilla is like 150 feet.
Yeah, that would mean if Legendary
Legendary's
Kong was
Godzilla
on the
is
same
is
scale,
the
he'd have to
biggest
be.
Godzilla.
ev-
Like the new universe Godzilla is literally the biggest Godzilla there's ever been, which was fine because it's the size city he was going into, and nobody
Mhm.
nobody really cared that he was bigger than Godzilla had been before, because Godzilla's been like 8 different sizes
I would
depending
say
on what
Godzilla's
era
not very
and what
consistent.
movie. Right, right.
And plus, I mean, like he hasn't done a movie in 10 years. He was probably sitting on the couch eating bonbons
Well,
for all these years. And
well, Godzilla's changed size dramatically within the same film, just depending on which set he was stomping on. But like the legendary Godzilla was pretty consistent in his size throughout the movie, and that's like 100. Like, would it be Kong climbing up the side of Godzilla?
Yes, and poking into his brain. That's how he wins. Boop.
Well, and I want to point out this whole thing is just a rumor. Really, they moved Kong to the studio where they're making Godzilla 2.
right.
They didn't. It's really weird, and it's the only feasible explanation for moving this picture is if they wanted to cross over with their Godzilla franchise. Kong's interesting because Kong's in the public domain where Godzilla isn't. So
Well, the other problem that you have there, though, like just like from a story speaking, like excuse me, from the story perspective, is the original King Kong versus Godzilla made sense because Toho was the Japanese version is probably the best Godzilla sequel. I'm not kidding. The Japanese version is a biting satire and probably the best of the Godzilla sequels. But at the time, Toho was trying to make King Kong one of their hero monsters. He had previously appeared in a film called King Kong Escapes, where he fought Mecha Kong. Now, the thing is, though,
I have to watch this.
It's awesome. There's also a guy named Doctor Who in it. It's ridiculous. I highly recommend King Kong Escapes. It's completely insane. But here's the thing. King Kong versus Godzilla came out when Godzilla was still squarely a bad guy in the movies.
Right.
While there were only 4 movies preceding it, all of the pre-Ghidorah three-headed monster Godzilla movies are Godzilla as the bad guy. So it made sense to have Kong, who they were trying to set up as a hero monster, fight Toho's at the time biggest bad.
Right, right.
And the Godzilla in Legendary is unquestionably a hero. Like, he rescues school children in a bus.
Yeah, and and while a valid interpretation of Godzilla, because he's been that version of the character many
But
times, it
there's
doesn't
nothing
really
wrong with Hero Godzilla. I love Hero
right,
Godzilla.
but it doesn't really mesh against like fighting a Kong, who's a tragic character in his story and usually presented as like the victim in his story.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Then again, Legendary Godzilla gets pissed off pretty easily. I mean, last time it was just he was angry at the neighbors for having sex too loud, so he had to go kill them. So maybe King Kong will do something really petty to offend him, and he'll just get up and just be like, ah!
Well, and there's also okay, so whatever this is, it wouldn't even happen until after Godzilla 2.
This is true.
So
Because Godzilla 2's got too many kaiju on the dance floor right now anyway, so.
yeah.
Oh boy. They
It'd
paid
be quite the movie though.
they paid for Rodan and Mothra and Ghidorah. That's expensive.
Yes, it is. Yeah, oh my god, yes, it is. That's
Yeah,
really
think about
expensive.
that.
Yeah, they're putting all their chips down on this one.
I think that too often these days people are overspending too much money on that sort of thing without
Really?
thinking it
That's
through.
a
Yeah. Speaking of people overspending before they know how returns are going to happen.
Oh, Trey.
Last
boy.
episode,
Good
last podcast, a fortnight ago, we talked about the Titletown Comic and Entertainment Expo having financial problems. Well, it's official. TCE2, less than a month before the event, has canceled their October 2015 con. It is completely dead. It's the last week of their existence for the 2015 con. They are planning on holding an event in June 2016, which was originally scheduled to be their second con, and now will be their first. What happened is that they had a lot of bills due right away, and what happened was, apparently, according to the Kai Convention Center, only like 2 people or had reserved rooms in their blocks.
Ouch.
And their room block was huge, by the way. It was it was massively huge. I don't have the number in front of me, but it was a couple hundred. And so they would have been on the hook for paying for those rooms. And so they originally were going to move to the Fear Grounds for their location. But too many, like all their vendors then were about to pull out when that move was announced. So they decided it was best to try to cancel the event and cut their losses and just try to reschedule everything for June. So yeah, it's the TCE2 guys I've seen get a lot of flack. People have accused them of lots of stuff, but no, it's really it comes down to the fact that it's an inexperienced con organizer and without a lot of support. And yeah, it's bad stuff has happened, and he's going to learn, and hopefully he can get his stuff together, because Green Bay could use a second convention, even if it's only going to be a month off their existing convention.
Yeah. I don't know how that's going to do for their numbers.
Well, it's going to attract a different crowd, that's for sure.
I think, well, yeah, that's definitely, like, this is a comic expo. Kitsune Con, of course, is an anime, and I would say, like, a general fandom.
Yeah, there is a crossover between the populations, but there's enough difference that it's like I think only about I'd say a quarter to half the population would attend both conventions. Now, I think that a lot of mistakes were made. First off, I think they've gone for far too large a room block, because the Anime Con crowd may travel, the Comic Expo crowd does not.
No.
And so a lot of their attendees, frankly, are not going to be getting hotel rooms. Like, we're trying to, run a first-year convention ourselves, and our room block is much smaller than theirs because we're not crazy. Because we understand how commuter cons work, but like the whole thing has just been kind of a really sad situation of people getting in a little over their head. I do hope their June event takes off. I hope it works out. Just because it would be nice for Wisconsin to get an expo style con that was not run by Wizard World.
It also, I mean, like I would really love to see them succeed. I'll
Yeah.
admit, I was pretty excited when they had initially when I heard that they were getting a bunch of Power Rangers guests because
Yeah. Well, because so the Wisconsin con model that's kind of taken off in Wisconsin over the past decade is really, it's a No Brand Con, Daisho Con, Geek Con, Anime Milwaukee, Kitsune Con. Most of them are anime cons, but they all have the Wisconsin model heavily focuses on video games and tabletop gaming and anime and science fiction, but it does not handle the comic expo style guests. And so it's a market that's underserved. And I think when Wizard World Wisconsin set up, they were able to take advantages, and they've been successful in Madison. And so it would be nice to see an independent group, because most of the conventions in Wisconsin are independently managed. It's, most of the shows in Wisconsin are not run by someone like Wizard World, where it's shows that are run by a single organization. So to see one come into that genre that would have been, and will be, I mean, assuming the June show works, it will be a locally managed event run by people from the area, and I think that's a good thing.
It's kind of what the scene needs right now.
Yeah, it's
agreed.
So I wish them the best of luck, and hopefully they've learned from the problems that have happened this past year, and they will move forward into success.
Yeah,
indeed.
Crossing fingers. Also found out that someone I went to high school with is like personal friends with the guy organizing the convention.
Oh,
really
world.
got weird, but
well, we wish the best for them for TCE2. Say that 5 times. TCE2.
Yeah, who we don't wish the best of luck though.
Oh my God! Let me tell you what we hope that doesn't work out. So last year, right around this time, we reported on a story that a group of on April 17th, 2015.
I was going to say it was just this last spring.
This last spring, we reported on a story that the MRA group, the Honey Badgers, which, in the most ironic set of words I'm about to say, a mostly woman group of men's rights activists.
Closely associated with the Voice for Men.
Which is, of course, one of the worst websites ever, and I'm even, despite all the shock sites we all got directed to in high school, Voice for Men is arguably the worst website out there ever. They're terrible people. Of course, the Honey Badgers were kicked out of Calgary Expo after reportedly registering an exhibitor table and lying about what they were going to do. Yes, they put all sorts of pro Gamergate propaganda all over their table, which of course was labeled as a hate group by the convention, as well as actively disrupting feminist based panels at the expo itself. Well, a few months after that, actually nearly days after that, they raised over $19,000 for a legal fund.
The total amount ended up being over 30,000
to attack the Calgary Expo, saying they were wronged, including for things like libel, breach of contract, injurious falsehood, all that absolute nonsense that men's rights activists tend to break out when they're pointed out just how shitty they are. They've finally done it. They followed through, and they have filed a suit against Calgary Expo and the Mary Sue. They filed it on September 9th of this month, maybe. saying that maybe this is all maybe.
Well, we reported on September 9th. That actually supposedly happened a few days before that.
Ah.
They have not said exactly what it is they're filing.
All right.
They didn't really say where they filed it. According
It
to
might have been in the
sources,
circular file.
according to their sources, they're working with a lawyer who is disbarred for overcharging clients.
Yeah, okay, so let's really unpack this. Let's unpack this. First
Yeah, where
off,
do we go with this? This is awful.
all right, so the Honey Badger Radio, or the Honey Badgers is what they're usually referred to as, a group of female MRAs, but mostly there are some guys associated with, registered a table at Calgary Expo under the name of a webcomic that one of them was running. Under that was the pretenses, and they got into the artist alley. Now, anyone who runs conventions, like, say, the three of us, and knows that if you lie on your artist alley application, conventions are not going to be happy with you.
You getting kicked.
Now, they openly displayed Gamergate merchandise. Now, Calgary Expo classifies Gamergate as a hate movement. Now, if someone feels like jumping in a comment section here and telling us why it's not, we don't care.
I'm gonna ignore you, honestly.
The only thing that matters is that Calgary Expo is classified as that, and Calgary Expo, in their policy, says they are the sole arbiter of what classified as a hate group and what classifies as disruptive. They also claim that they weren't disruptive in the panel, but I've listened to the audio from the panel that they posted themselves, and they were clearly disruptive. But it doesn't matter, because Calgary Expo, in the contract signed by the artist, agrees the Calgary Expo is the sole arbiter of deciding what is, and they are not, as men's rights activists, a protected group by law in Canada. So this is all very important, all right? So what's happened is that they hired a disbarred lawyer who's only allowed to work under the supervision of an attorney in Alberta to draft a complaint, and so they could draft a filing for them. And that they filed, that they posted online, and that's the only thing we know that they ever have put together. They have not stated what they have filed or where they have filed it. Now, they also say the thing that was written by the disbarred lawyer also is supposed to be against the Mary Sue, which is a website. Now, they're claiming that the Mary Sue is liable or whatever for just because the Mary Sue reported on the situation. And the Mary Sue, really all they did was report the facts as they happened. So it's not really clear what the Mary Sue did wrong. But most importantly, the only thing they would have filed was in Canada. Honey Badger Radio is composed of American citizens living in America. The Mary Sue is operated in the United States. There is zero jurisdiction for Canada to be involved in any complaint against the Mary Sue. Now, there would be the proper jurisdiction for a complaint against Calgary Expo, being a Canadian convention run by an organization in Canada.
If they hadn't signed contracts that they very clearly broke.
But they have zero case against Calgary Expo because they're not a protected group, and they signed a contract, and Calgary Expo had all these terms on their website. Anyone could go check. I did go check. I've read through all of it, and the truth is that anybody walking into convention doors can pretty much be kicked out for any reason unless there's a specific non-discrimination law on the books against it. So, like, if there are laws against, you can't kick someone on the because of their religion or race, then they'd have a case. But the truth is they're not a protected group. Men's rights activists are not a protected group under the law. So because they aren't, they fall under the fact that Calgary Expo reserves the right to just boot anybody. And I'll tell you, almost every convention ever created has that language.
I was about to say,
it makes my day so much better. My day was already going pretty great, but this whole story just makes me even happier.
So this whole thing is a case of when they started raising the money, I said, this is really stupid. There is literally nothing they can do. But they raised $30,000.
Trey, well, obviously they raised $30,000. There's no larger group of whiners than men's rights activists.
But this is what this is my
literally
theory.
All you have to do is say, like, oh yeah, we were wrong for being men, and men's rights activists will just throw their wallets at this group.
This is my theory. My theory is that they raised the money to just have money. Yeah, but because they did it under the pretense of a legal fund, they had to file something to prevent it from being fraud.
Right.
So by filing something, even if the legal case gets thrown out, their legal defense, their legal fund, they get to keep. And because they did do something legalish with it, they can claim that it wasn't fraud. They can claim that they didn't raise it under false pretenses and sit on the rest of the money. That is what I think happened. Obviously I have no inside information, but like, this is my theory. I'm 100% certain that they filed this complaint under the understanding that they were just going to be a nuisance.
Oh yeah, I totally am with you.
Which is really, if you think about it, what men's rights activists excel at. They don't go out there and they don't like march for men's health issues. They don't raise money for prostate cancer awareness. They don't volunteer at homeless shelters for
no. In
veterans
fact, Paul Elam of A Voice for Men has specifically been on the record that he the only form of activism he ever intends to do is just yelling at people online.
That's exactly what they do. They yell at women.
But I was about to say, come on, let's be fair. Men's rights activists don't just yell at women. They endanger the lives of pop culture critics by doxing them.
Oh, that too.
Speaking of endangering people's lives, let's move on to my next favorite story that's ever happened in a long
Trey,
time.
I wanna diss men's rights activists even more. I love throwing them around. It's great.
Oh well.
But I love this story too. So let's get to it.
I love this story. So, actually, it happened before we recorded our last episode, but because we didn't get all the information about it, we couldn't publish anything about it until afterwards. But 2 weeks ago at MetaCon in the Twin Cities, it's a annual 3-day gaming convention run by AnimeCon.org. The most wonderful thing happened. The most wonderful, splendid thing happened when AnimeCon.org /Chrono LC CEO Ryan Kopf, our favorite person here at Nerd and Tie,
oh yeah,
got into a physical altercation with a vendor on the Saturday of the convention. We first heard about this actually when I first heard about this when a friend of ours who was at the con randomly texted me saying that police and were rushing to the vendor room on Saturday of the con. That police were spotted along with a medic. But what happened was, and this is so we've gotten multiple reports. We got an official statement from AnimeCon.org. And we've gotten a statement from the vendor in question. So what happened was, this is what happened to the best of our knowledge. There are gaps, and there's going to be reasons why some of those gaps aren't really important, and we'll talk about that. But so what happened was that there was a vendor there, Plush in the USA, which is run by David Silvius, Silvieus. He was vending plushies that really appeared to be bootleg, and I've talked to other vendors, and they were bootleg plushies. Now, there are many things wrong with AnimeCon.org, but they do have a solid no bootleg policy, like any modern convention in the circuit would. Even terrible people can adopt good policies.
Even Pol Pot had a decent meatloaf recipe.
Right. So, anyways. What happened was that from all accounts that I've heard from, and this is again talking to witnesses and talking to Silvius and talking to, and the official statement, I should say. I didn't have a conversation with Ryan Kopf, but he sent us an official statement. According to all of these accounts, when the staffers first went up to him, he refused to leave and demanded that he would only leave if the police asked him to go. Now, you may be saying to yourself, what the hell just happened? Because when confronted with bootlegs, he didn't pack up and go. When kicked out, they literally brought the hotel down to kick him out, and he wouldn't go. And Silvius admits that he demanded that the police escort him out.
This is nuts.
Which is insane. So, what happened was, after that, so Ryan Kopf and Kay Combs, Kay Combs is a staffer with AnimeCon.org who really doesn't like us. But those two guys, what they did was, while they called the police and they sat down in chairs blocking access to the guy's booth. Now, this was probably a dumb move on their part, and even Ryan Kopf admits that he shouldn't have done this. So Sylvaeus got extremely, apparently was getting very agitated. And what he claims is the following. Sylvaeus claims that he attempted to move Ryan Kopf's chair. That he was sitting with the back of the chair was to the booth, and he claims he tried to move Ryan Kopf's chair. Kay Combs claimed that the guy hit Ryan at this point. Random dude. These are the two versions of events that are most plausible. That either Sylvaeus just tried to move the chair or that he hit Ryan. Those are I believe that he didn't hit Ryan, but it doesn't matter. Either one of those. There are weird stories being passed around involving like weird like hair pulling that don't match up to anybody's story except for this one guy who keeps insisting on it. But neither Kopf, Sylvaeus, or Combs claim that the hair pulling happened. So either Sylvaeus hit him or he tried to move the chair. Ryan Kopf got up, turned around, and repeatedly struck Sylvaeus. Sylvaeus says 5 times. And this matches the story from both, at this point, Kay Combs and Sylvaeus. Kay Combs then... Kay Combs is a big guy. He's probably, he's in my weight class. Tackles the vendor. And, the vendor likely also struck... I'm sorry, I skipped a step. After Ryan Kopf struck the vendor 5 times, the vendor did punch Ryan Kopf. And then Kay Combs tackled the vendor. Now, in all likelihood, from the most sources, it sounds like Ryan was the first person to throw punches. I do think it's most likely... based on the number of witness accounts that go with the vendor just moving the chair and then Ryan getting up and punching him. The vendor was being very aggressive, and so I can understand why it seemed like an aggressive act, but it does sound like Ryan threw the first punch. But let me tell you why that's not important. Minnesota's a retreat state. If you are in a physical situation and you have the opportunity to leave, you are supposed to take it, or else you are still, responsible for the assault. So Ryan Kopf had many ways out. He had a chair between him and the other guy. He had plenty of places he could go and leave. Instead, he continued to escalate the altercation. And the vendor has said that he has hired a lawyer and is pressing charges. So...
See, I haven't been so physically non-threatened by an individual now that I know that the person can throw 5 punches and not take someone down within 5 hits.
Well, that's the whole thing is it's Ryan okay, so based on I do think Ryan threw the first punch. And he's kind of terrible, but
rolled
this
a 5 on his attack.
This vendor's also a terrible guy. So this is 2 people who are pretty awful.
2 jackasses fighting
each other. There are no heroes in this story. Just a lot of entertaining shit.
Yeah, we're all the winners in this one. They might have lost, but we all won. I don't.
My God, the Plush in the USA guy can't even craft his story to make himself sound sympathetic though. He's his statement he sent to us. He's acting like a total dick to the staff, and I'm like, if staff tells you to leave, you leave. They're the ones that your contract clearly says that they can boot you for any reason.
See, I remember I was so excited about this that I just out and out said it on my Facebook page before the story even got posted. That's
you ruined breaking the story, and actually, I'm actually really mad at you for that.
If I find out that if I find out what a Christmas present is, I'm gonna tell people about it.
And that's why people stop telling you what Christmas presents are.
I was so happy and excited, Trey. You don't even know.
That's why we're all disappointed in you. But
who are you, my parents?
Yes.
Dad?
Yes. And mom. At the same time. Parthenogenesis.
I was about to say,
Is Nick my sister? Is that how that works?
No, Nick isn't biologically related to either one of us.
Oh, okay.
okay, okay.
We like Nick. I don't know. This is just funny. To go back to the original subject, this is just friggin'
It's
hilarious.
amazing. I love
it.
it.
Really is.
This is the crowning moment of jackassery.
This is so good because, like you said, two jackasses got in a fight. Both of them took some punches. One got drilled to the ground. The other one, I don't know. Like I feel like I was there. Honestly,
It is a thing of glory.
it's
Plus legal charges against Ryan Comp.
Yeah,
Which
I'm so excited.
couldn't
like-
happen. It couldn't have happened to a rapier guy.
Oh
That's
dear.
all I'm saying. That's
Got that cease and desist right up there.
it's hanging out right over there. So good.
Anyways,
Good times.
Oh, best day
Good
ever.
times.
hey Nick, why don't you
Alright.
tell us about your good times?
I had an interesting trip just a couple weeks ago. I
Last
went
weekend.
to Coulee last weekend, yeah, at Coulee Con in
Where is Coulee Con?
that's in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and it was held at the UW I believe the UW Center at UW La Crosse. And it was a first year con, and yeah, I had a lot of fun there. There were definitely some organizational issues. It has been years since I have been to a con that didn't have a guidebook.
What?
In fact, I think this is the
Wow.
first con I've ever been to that didn't have a guidebook.
What?
So that was, yeah.
How did they?
How did you know what was happening? Did
How
you have
did
to
you
go
know
to
what was
the
happening?
doors?
I didn't know what was happening. The only reason that I knew what some tournaments were even happening, and I'm saying some, is that the sponsors of the event, River City Hobbies,
A great
one of
place,
the
by the way.
they're a fantastic place to get comics and games and such. One of the guys who works there was the representative of River City, who was an old friend of mine from high school. So he told me what events he was running. So I knew River City Hobby schedule, and that was it. We actually didn't know when to show up to open the artist booth until we checked the Facebook page in the morning. So
Oh, I've dealt with cons like that. So do you think it's just growing pains because they're a first year convention?
I think it is growing pains. There was a lot of miscommunication between the professor who was advising for it and the club that was running it. And I was actually a little bit sad to see the guy the representative of the club actually said he was backing down after this first year, that he didn't want to try it again. But they are going to be doing another event though that is going to be independent from the university. So I'll be interested to see where that goes.
Yeah.
Because I've said it before, I love small gaming cons actually, and I did have fun at it. There were even I played a couple card games. I met a young man who had designed his own dice-based game, and I kind of got to beta test that. That was kind of fun. I did see something that horrified me.
Really?
In terms of the future of cons and what we're going to see. There was a vendor who I'm not going to name.
Oh, I said go ahead and name them.
Okay, then yeah. A different unlike River City Hobbies that I don't have a whole lot of I don't have a lot invested in this one. The District Company from up in Eau Claire.
Oh, those guys.
They had set up with a 3D printer, which again, in and of itself, a 3D printer isn't a bad thing. But from their booth, they appeared to be selling Pokemon figurines that they were making themselves, and I witnessed them selling a Code Geass figurine that they were making themselves. Now, for those of you who don't know, that would qualify as a bootleg.
Right, because unlike fan art and artist items, which are one-offs, this is a vendor in the vendor area producing licensed designs.
And that's what scares me though, is that I was looking at what this thing was capable of, and like, I got a good look at the Code Geass figurine in question, and it as nice as the $40 robot Damashi Lancelot figure that I bought several years ago? No, but it's a striking semblance of the.
Well, and I mean, like, this sounds really bad because, like, if they were, producing Nintendo licensed figurines or anything like that, Nintendo is notoriously litigious, and they've gone after not just vendors but conventions that are selling these stuff.
They've gone after shops for like decorations or for trying to give out badges for their Pokemon tournaments.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, honest to God, like, any convention out there has to watch their vendors now for this kind of stuff.
I'm not shocked to hear that a group like the District Company is doing that kind of stuff, but yeah, no, that raises a lot of issues because, I mean, who do you hold if you see a vendor bringing in a 3D printer? What do you say? Do you say stop? You can't bring, like, where do you have to draw the line to say you can't allow certain things in?
Well, where do you draw the line with that? How easy would it be to get a 3D printer design for like a license for like actual licensed figures and just make knockoffs of those?
I think it goes back to the same thing that any vendors sign a contract, and if there's a no bootleg policy in the contract, there's a no bootleg policy in the contract, and
I don't know if they had anything like that. So
right, but most conventions do have one, and so what you'd have to do. So what is that? When those contracts are signed, they usually place the responsibility for any bootlegs legally on the vendor. And so that usually protects the convention, and then what the convention has to do is police it, and they've got to, if you see a 3D printer, check on what they're doing. Send a staffer, not in a staff shirt to go ask, about what they're selling, and then point out that it's in violation of the policy and make them pull it. And if the vendor, if that's their sole business model, then they clearly didn't read their vendor agreement clearly enough to have, it's like, I have very little sympathy when the policies are very clearly spelled out.
And again, I didn't see the vendor contract. I don't know what it said.
Right.
But like I said,
the truth is I've seen that vendor with a 3D printer at another convention. Now, I didn't pay attention to what they were producing.
And like, I saw what looked like a Warhammer piece. I didn't know if that was actually for sale or just a demonstration. But again, not TSR aren't really the kind of people I'd want to mess with either.
Well, it makes me wonder if they're selling these bootlegs out of their shop here in Eau Claire too. I mean, that's
yeah.
That's incredible. That I mean that just kind of that'll just end up hurting the greater fandom because companies will try to. I mean I don't know how companies are going to respond to this, but I mean,
it's going to start to be an issue soon.
Yeah,
mark my words. This is going to be a big issue soon.
Yeah.
Don't buy things from bootleggers, guys. Bootleg stuff isn't great.
Bootlegging is bad.
It's bad, and if you bootleg, you should feel bad. And if you bootleg, I hope your business fails.
Pretty much.
So that was kind of a downer, but it was a fun con. They need a guidebook. They desperately need a guidebook, and they need better advertising. Because, I mean, like, I did run into Otaku Tonight co-writers and friends of mine, Beck and Brandon there. But they're
good people.
Yeah, they didn't know about the event till I told them about it, though. And they live in that area. So, yeah, something went wrong.
Yeah.
But that's about all I've got to say. I mean, I still had fun.
Well, I mean, and that's what being at a con is all about, right? It's having a good time.
I would say so. Yeah.
Speaking about conventions and good times.
Good times.
Good times. Well, folks, I don't know if you've heard, but we've been pushing it all over the internet, making sure that you have heard about it. But we here at Nerd and Tie are starting our own convention. Yes, we here at Nerd and Tie just a few weeks ago, about a month ago, announced the Nerd and Tie Expo, which is going to be taking place September 23rd through the 25th in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, next year in 2016 at the Plaza Hotel.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Almost exactly a year from the date we're recording this right now.
Yeah.
But we want to make it better than what it's already going to be. I mean, we are able to put the convention on now as it stands with what we've got, and it's going to be pretty good. It's going to be a very enjoyable, fun experience. People are going to have a lot of fun. They're going to have a good time.
You might be one of those people.
We can make it an even better time. Yes, we have launched an Indiegogo campaign to raise some money to make things bigger and better than you could have even thought possible. Now we're asking for $5,000 right now. Pardon me. We're almost 20% of the way there, and we've got 47 days left on our campaign from the time we're recording this. The website is, of course, Trey. What's the website again? It's
igg.me/AT/NEXPO.
Of course, as always, we'll put that in the show notes.
Yes.
Indeed.
But we need your help. Now we have your basic sponsors tiers, which of course $10. Throw in $10 to our event. We'll put your name in the program guide. Basically, give you a little bit of recognition for helping. Of course, the one that I would recommend pitching in for is the $40 basic sponsor and admission tier. Now, basically, you're going to get your name in the program guide. And you're going to get into the con, which is important because we're only offering 1,000 badges to this event. We're cutting it off at 1,000 paid badges. You're not going to get in after the 1,000 mark. So now would really be your time to contribute, to reserve your place for this event. But it doesn't stop there. No, if you want to give us even more, like say $300, Trey will write you a theme song. Now we already had one fan.
Limited slots available.
We have limited slots available. One fan already purchased this tier, so we've only got 4 left. Of course, you can also pitch up $200 more, and for $500, you get the silver level sponsorship for life. You can literally go to any event that we run anytime in the future at any place in the world for free. You're in.
You will have already bought your ticket.
You'll have bought your ticket, but if you go to enough of our events, if we have enough events and you go to all of them, it almost pays for itself.
Well, it's the silver. Okay, so we skipped a level back at $100 is the silver level sponsorship, and that's also a really great deal. What that gives you is early access to the vendor room, along with priority seating at all events during the con, where you get to sit in the front row at every event. We'll reserve the seat for you, and so. And again, and that's at $100. You get that sponsorship. Now, at $500, what you're getting is that level sponsorship for life. So, since that's a $100 package, and just after 5 cons, which I think is doable, it starts paying for itself.
Exactly. But Trey, there's more.
There is!
There's more.
For $1,000, you get the naming rights to a panel room, of which we're going to have, what are we on, about 3 rooms?
There's going to be 3 for sure.
There's 3 panel rooms for sure.
There's going to be the 3 programming rooms that are the programming 1, programming 2, and then the theater.
So for $1,000, you can name it whatever you want, barring any obscenities or hate speech or anything like that we would not feel comfortable putting on that door. Or you could go the biggest tier we've got. For $5,000, you, the Nerd and Tie listener, can dictate what you would like tattooed on my bottom. Yes, if you'd pitch in $5,000, I, firsters, already tattooed up, will add 1 more to my collection, and it will be your name on my backside.
There are only 2 slots available.
Only 2 slots, because I only got 2 cheeks. But think about it, guys. And if you gather 10 of your friends and you all pitch in $500,
and I will say that, like, all of that does come with a pile of silver level sponsorships too. So
a lot of them. 10, I believe, right?
Yep.
So really, if you and 9 of your friends each pitch in $500 to this cause, heck, I'll get all 10 of your names tattooed down one cheek. I'll do it.
Yeah, no, it's pretty. I personally wouldn't do that, but I think you should.
I'll do it.
It's
But you've got 47 days from the time that this goes on air to donate.
So I'll say, actually, with that tattooing your name on first butt, if you break down the math, that comes with 10 silver level sponsorships, right?
That's worth $1,000 right there.
So, I mean, it's totally worth it, right? I mean, this is just, it makes good business sense to get your name tattooed on first butt.
It does.
Oh yeah.
And I will say, if another convention wants to get their name tattooed on first butt,
yeah, if you want to pitch in 5,000, I will
If another convention will do it, we will let in that whole convention staff.
Yeah. Not to the con.
To the con. Not into first butt.
Not into
I'll say that's if a con buys both cheeks. I'll say if a convention sponsors a spot, I'll double the number of silver level sponsors to 20. If you buy both cheeks, we'll let your whole staff in.
And
to the con.
To the con. You're going to have to take me to dinner if you want the other one. Take a guy to Olive Garden first. Jeez, I don't...
God, let's move on to the Vomit Head Steve Challenge.
Yeah, because we don't have any mail this week. By the way, guys, feel free to donate if you'd like. We are going to be at other conventions here in the near future, too, where you could potentially donate as well.
Yeah, it's... I will say, technically, we did get some emails about this week about the closure of Saskatoon Blitz is officially 100% dead, where they've actually come out and said it. It's just that we got like a 3 different emails about that, but there really wasn't a whole lot for us to say on the topic.
Exactly.
So, and since we had pretty much confirmed that the con was dead already, without, their statement doesn't really make a big difference other than they're a bunch of dicks. All right, so moving on to the Vomit Hat Steve Challenge.
Yeah,
every episode, we read a section of a book, and our challenge to you is that you have to guess what book it is from. If you guess the book correctly, what happens is your name gets added to the Hall of Awesome. Benefits of the Hall of Awesome are as follows. You get your name listed on our website. You get your name read aloud every episode, and that is it. You don't get any more. You are being far too greedy for a stupid little contest we do. All right, so the current members of the Hall of Awesome are as follows. Arkham Ren Innocenti, Cheesy McDamn, Krista, Slithery D, Shameless Otaku, The Random Ramblings Man, Core Fan Capito, Chris Graham, Lily Saurus, Paper Godzilla, and Cavsy. And here is your current challenge. This chapter contains a quick reference list of all the signs that have been covered to make it easier for you in your first experiments. If you know what book that's from, go to nerdtie.com, click on the contact form, and tell us. Or just tell us anything else you like to talk about. We'll discuss and read anything you send us if it's not about Saskatoon Blitz. Just go to nerdtie.com/contact or click on the contact form.
Did we get anything in our mailbag this week?
Welcome to the show, Nick.
Yeah.
Where we just discussed not having anything in our mailbag.
Wow, I am really out of it. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, if you're really out of it, you should probably take us home.
We should probably, let's go home. This is a weird night. Well, Nerd Tie has closed for another fortnight, but we'll be here to talk with you again on that same Nerd Tie site, same Nerd Tie time, which is whenever the heck you want to listen to it.
But are you Nick?
I am certain, and I am Nick Izumi.
I am Trey Dorn.
And I'm First Stirs.
And remember, you can always rate and review us on Stitcher and iTunes. Well, you can also subscribe to us. Stitcher has an iPhone app along with an Android app.
You can do it, Trey.
And you can do this on any platform. So rate and review us. Tell people how awesome we are, because we are awesome. You are awesome. We are all awesome. You are awesome for listening to the show, and you can make more people awesome by getting more people to listen to the show by telling people how awesome you think it is. Or don't tell people how awesome we are. It doesn't matter. Everything matters. Nothing matters. Everything is in your head, down your pants, and up your spine.
But give us your money for the con. We want that.
Yeah, let's go to igg.me/AT/NEXPO, which stands for Nexpo, which is the Nerd Tie Expo, which is awesome. Say your catchphrase, Nick.
Keep on spocking in the free world.
Dance party.
I'm totally dancing.
Oh, dear God, we should run away.